Live from the Green Room Studios, from the spacious property of Bates Nursery and Garden Center, 3810 Whites Creek Pike, it's the At Home Show with Josh Cary and David Bates.
All right, and welcome in, everyone. And as you may have already detected, Josh Cary is not here today. He's taking a day off. We wish him well, but you know, we need to get him out of the studio to accommodate the level of talent that we have here at Bates Nursery and Garden Center. And we have been remiss of late because we have not been able to demonstrate the considerable talents of Mr. Adam Chapman. Good morning, sir. Welcome aboard today.
Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you aboard today. Of course, we're going to be talking about what you want to talk about. That's landscaping, home improvement, and we'll discuss all those in short order. But first, we're going to go straight to the weather. And this is what you call the consistency forecast. But it looks like it's going to rain.
I see a lot of lightning bolts.
It looks like
pow,
that.
Pow, pow, pow.
There could be, at times today, could be pretty heavy. And tomorrow, for that matter, it looks like the heaviest part will be in the afternoons. There is, as we'll look at the radar in a few moments, some just out to the west, not a huge amount, but there is some. So the operative word is to break out the rain gear and get out and do what you're going to do. It's not, hopefully, it's not going to be for anyone. Flooding type conditions. The weather in our country is that of extremes, and you either get on the borderline of almost too much or way too much or none at all. So we're in the apparently in the getting it category. Today is Saturday, of course, the 3rd of September. Welcome to September, everyone. It has arrived in full force. We're going to have 86 degrees for the high today and some likely afternoon thunderstorms. There could even be a few this morning. More of the same for tomorrow. 81 for the high, 84 on Monday, and again on Tuesday. Maybe slightly cooler, 82 on Wednesday, 83 on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You know, it's kind of the same all the way down the line. And the forecasted amounts of rain, 1 to 2 inches of rain, pretty much every day after today and tomorrow. Could see maybe 1.25 inches of rain according to this forecast. We will look quickly here at the radar and show you that there's a fair amount of precip in the eastern U.S. and in our area here. This is the storm cells that'll be affecting the Nashville area here in the near future, probably the next hour or two. It's approaching Davidson County just before showtime. There's some much larger storms out here to the west, so hard to know exactly which way those are going to track. But regardless of all that, looks like it's going to be a pleasant day. 70 degrees currently here in the Music City, live from the Green Room at Bates Nursery and Garden Center. So thanks for everyone for tuning in today. First of all, say good morning to you, Tyler. Hope you're doing well today.
Morning.
And,
yes. Everything's
and we're
good.
Also
no sweat on my brow.
Yeah. And we're also going to bring in those other voices you hear chuckling at the other end of the studio. Caroline Gant, Austin Lowen. Good morning, guys. Welcome aboard.
Good morning.
Glad to have you today.
Good to be here.
Adam and I were talking before we went on the air, and it seems as though that there is a problem with sycamores that we have not discussed with this tree before. Adam, do you want to talk about that a little more in depth?
Yeah, I heard that some sycamores lost very drearily last night to Weekly County School, about 50 points, I think.
Oh, God. Are you talking about I thought y'all were talking about trees.
We're talking about your alma mater, man.
Oh, God.
Oh, no.
My alma mater, I know.
You guys got killed last night.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I got a good buddy that I went to high school with that's a coach, one of the assistant coaches, and he said we're just not looking good this year.
I think that would be an accurate assessment.
Yes.
You know?
Oh,
Yes.
no.
Well, there's no way to improve if you're already the best. So obviously there's room for improvement. We're not really taking a jab at the Sycamore program. We're just
taking a jab at Austin specifically.
Yeah, we had a chance to do that today, and we tried not.
Since I left, it all was downhill. So it's been like that for a number of years now.
For a long
time. So you were
time.
Are you saying you were the pillar that was holding it up?
Yeah, okay. I am saying that. Been downhill ever since.
He's one of the pillars that holds up the goings on around here at Bates Nursery. Actually, we've got 4 of them here in studio, and these are both. Bates Nursery is made up of a lot of pillars. We do have 4 very important members of that here in studio this morning. And they even let me come along, Adam. So, I'm glad to be here as well.
Yes. Yes, we did.
So we're going to answer some questions. And unless there's something else you want to get into first, Caroline, we're going to let you kind of steer things from this point.
Let's just start with questions. Those are already up. Do you carry the type of lantana that is perennial and an annual?
Great question. Yes.
Yes, we do, because I bought some this year.
We do. We carry both. Yeah, we carry all the annuals for sure. And then there's one variety specifically called, I guess, Miss Huff, I think, is the perennial, mostly perennial variety, y'all. I'm not going to be like it's perfect and going to come back every year, tried and true. Try to get them in a protected spot if you can, a nice hot spot in the yard. They certainly like it hot and dry. Up against a brick wall is fine. I had an old friend. She was a boss of mine, actually, that I used to work for. And she had Miss Huff Lantana, and it returned for her every year. But she did have it on a brick wall, literally the hottest spot in her yard. So it came back, and it more or less was a shrub every year and blooms forever from the spring all the way to frost. So, yes, we do carry both.
Yeah, and the Miss Huff is the one thing I think more so a problem than cold weather is excessive moisture. So if you have it in a spot where it doesn't drain well, it'll rot out over the winter, and that's likely so think about where you're going to put it. With the rule with lantanas is it can't be too hot or too dry. They really love both those things.
That's a good point to make also with say lavender or rosemary. Both of those can be certainly perennial here, but it's wet over the wintertime typically here in Middle Tennessee, and they can rot. They're not necessarily too cold at all. That's that wetness. So make sure it's got good drainage.
Yeah. I was going to say, not to mention our native soil, particularly when you're in a new build, when they strip all the topsoil off of it, you really don't have soil. It's just subsoil that doesn't drain well. So you really got to amend it when you put that kind of thing in. So.
Yeah, I like to ask the question first before anybody, when someone's redoing their landscape or just starting with their landscape, do you have a new build or do you have an old home? Because that really changes what we're going to plant and how much we're going to have to amend the soil, which is certainly crucial with a new build. Like Adam just said, they just get rid of all that good stuff and just pile whatever, right next to the home. So that does not drain well, and we need to know that up front.
Lovely.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on to the next question. Best pollinators to plant right now.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
That's
what I don't, okay, so do you want it
easy for you to say?
Pollinators like that you can plant right now, or do you want them to be blooming right now?
I think.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it. I think probably the ones that are blooming right now. That's my guess.
So what would that be like? Saladego would be one of the better ones right now?
That's a great one, yeah. Adam's talking about Goldenrod, which is a good one. Big old native weed that grows out in the woods.
Grows all over my property.
All over the place.
Over.
Big yellow blooming plant.
What about ironweed? Would that be another one?
Certainly up and looking good. Yep, those are huge right now.
I actually sent Tyler an ironweed picture last week that was... I took it perhaps a couple of years ago, but it's still a great shot. And those two colors are particularly wonderfully contrasting in the fall, with that brilliant gold and that deep purple color. So
it is a great purple.
Nice.
It's a great purple. Joe Pye weed comes to mind as well, y'all. If you have
another one.
Yeah, if you're wanting to do a native, especially in a wet spot, Joe Pye weed can kind of handle that moisture more so than other things can. So that's another good one for the pollinators.
Isn't milkweed, isn't it still blooming right now too? Or
maybe probably finishing.
Okay.
Yeah, probably still.
Mine's still
Mine
in
is.
bloom. Yeah, mine's blooming.
It's still showing some color. So
Mine looks
definitely
great right now.
good for the monarchs.
One thing I want to mention about while we're on the topic of Saladego, and maybe this has been covered in the show before, but a lot of people think that goldenrod is what gives them hay fever. And so they malign it and hate it. But actually, it is pigweed that is blooming at the exact same time, and you can't even actually see those blooms. And so that is what is causing your hay fever, not goldenrod. So
Pigweed. Pigweed? I don't even know what that is.
Horrible. Pigweed is a little shrubby weed that has thorns. It's horrible to pull.
Ooh,
and when it gets in your bed, it's going to stay for a while. It's really hard to get rid of it. I worked at MTSU's organic farm. We used to grow vegetables, and we had a bad pigweed problem. It was there. God, it was horrible.
Terrible.
Yeah, it'll get you. So.
Is that when wind pollinated? Is that why it's so aggravating?
Oh yeah, wind, bees.
And because what really aggravates your sinuses is the size of the pollen, because it mimics a virus or a bacteria or whatever, and attaches in your mucous membrane, all that stuff. So, goldenrod's pollen is too big to do that.
Right.
So,
yeah.
The worst allergen for me, that's not really a plant-based thing, is microfine dust. If I've on occasion I have cleaned a computer and made the mistake of doing it indoors with one of those little duster cans, bad mistake. I haven't done that mistake in a long time, but I have done it in the past. So if you're cleaning out a little computer or something, take it outside, because that microfine dust, it'll put you in shutdown mode for 2 or 3 days.
yes.
You'll be eating a Benadryl, and you'll be oblivious to what's going on around you. So
Sounds fun.
well,
Yeah.
might be.
A little bit. All right. We've got a pansy question, and I know someone in this room loves pansies. This guy.
I do.
Should we wait to put pansies and violas in the ground, or is now a good time?
You know what? It's getting to be time, I think. It's the night temperatures are starting to cool down a little bit. Daytime temps are still a little high, so it's pansies don't necessarily like that. But honestly, I think it's about time. It's about time to get them summer annuals out of there. They're probably starting to look a little tired. Some of them are probably still looking pretty good, which is no fun. We've talked about this multiple times on the show. Is to get your pansies actively growing and get them a nice little bushy plant to keep them blooming through the wintertime, you need to get them in and get them growing. So to do that, you've got to, unfortunately, get rid of some of those plants that you planted in the spring that are looking good right now, and get them removed so we can go ahead and put pansies and violas in. And honestly, I'm thinking about going ahead and buying my pansies, maybe today, maybe next week, but either way, it needs to happen pretty soon. So,
Well, it's a catch-22 because you don't. If you wait too late, you're not going to have a good selection. Nor will they get established very well.
exactly.
So.
And we just got our first selection in this week, pretty much. Yep. You know what? This has been the week of the trucks, actually. We go through the summer without ordering very much, and not much comes in, and we're just kind of left over with some old stock or whatever. Well, not this week. We've had at least, I don't know, Adam, 15 trucks.
I would say we averaged 3 a day or 4 a day.
We did. We had 5 one day this week on Adam's day off. Thanks a lot, Adam.
Yeah, you're welcome.
But
so fortunate.
Another note with regard to getting pansies in, not necessarily right now, but soon. If you wait until, a lot of people really want to enjoy the color that they get from their summer annuals all the way through to frost, and if you do that, though, what Adam already mentioned, you won't have anything to choose from, because the one thing pansy growers have done in the last few years is that they have really started curtailing their overgrow. There never seems to be extra, so they are, by intent, are reducing the numbers that they're growing, so they know how many they're going to sell. They sell those and then they're done. So consequently, there doesn't seem to be a stock available really beyond the end of October. There's a few, but you don't have the diverse selection we have right now. And of course, secondarily, as I already mentioned as well, if you don't get them in and get them established while the weather's still warm, you won't get a lot of performance out of them over the winter months. And it's nice to get them in the ground while the weather's still warm enough to produce root action and get them growing and setting bud. And that way, every time the weather is warm for a few days throughout the winter, you're going to get color. And then when spring rolls around, then you're faced with that next big decision, is taking them out because they're gorgeous right when you need to be planting the spring annual. So those two times of year, pansies are right in the crosshairs of making decisions and how to deal with it. And it's great to have the option to have color in the winter. Unfortunately, we're in a temperate enough zone where we do get a good show out of them most of the winter months.
Yes.
I'm not ready to take mine out yet
I know, I'm not really
because
ready either.
my spring summer annuals look amazing.
Well, for me, the sweet spot is really towards the end of September. I think is kind of the, when you're close enough to the first frost, but it's still warm enough, and the selection's still pretty good. So, if you do it now, it's fine. I mean, follow Austin's advice. That's fine. He's going to plant some at his house next week, apparently. But sometimes if it stays warm and persists like it can, they'll get kind of leggy and so you're either way you're taking a chance, really.
Yeah, it's that
one of
sweet
the
spot.
things you just mentioned was the phrase "first frost." Now, that's an important thing for people to keep in mind because typically we have our average first frost days between the 10th and the 15th of October. Most everything I'm reading weather-wise is suggesting that could be pushed well forward a couple of weeks or perhaps more. We have seen years recently where we have not had frost until early November.
Right.
So
Right.
That further exacerbates this timeline of when to plant. If you wait until it feels like the right time, you've already waited too late.
Yes.
Okay. Well, speaking of pansies and fall annuals, we have some on our table. I don't know if the video camera.
There we go.
There it is.
You
So
absolutely know.
Them
I do know
video
that.
cameers from
if the camcorder can
the
shoot down
camcorder.
that low.
Let me go over there and work the tripod.
All right, y'all, calm down. So I brought these in this morning, just your classic pansy look. And then over on the other side, we do have some more annuals that we got in this week.
Oh, sorry, the other side.
These are some
My bad.
some perennials we got in this week, though. But on the other side, we've got Snapdragon right in front. Adam, if you want to show
there.
that off,
Yeah,
get that
right
hand
there,
out. Oh,
right
thank you,
there.
David. There's that.
Big
There's
hand.
that
Put the
giant
big
hand.
hand out there.
And then down in front, we've got some ornamental peppers. So these are some of the annuals that we got in this year that are looking, or this week, also this year, that are looking fantastic right
Yes.
now.
And this month too.
And this month, yeah, it's wild. It's
Yep.
crazy.
We got ornamental peppers, lantana.
Tyler,
Tyler,
Sorry.
wake up.
wake up.
Red hot pokers.
Someone needs more coffee.
Nephofia.
Nephofia, there you go. Yucca, and then pampas grass.
Miscanthus, actually.
This.
Miscanthus.
Or as I like to
Tyler,
call
you're
it,
doing
pampas
great.
grass.
And then over
It's
here,
not
back
really-
to this
it's not
side,
really that pompous.
we do have lamb's ear and then sneezeweed, as Joy calls it, and then some rudbeckia right behind that. So we've got some perennials and annuals mixed in, a nice yellow and green look.
You brought sneezeweed in here?
Yes, I did.
I ain't heard a sneeze yet, though.
It hasn't happened. We're doing a science experiment on this.
Nobody
All
sneeze.
right. You gotta hold it in. I love lamb's ear. I've had one that stays up through the winter that I've had for 4 years now. It's gorgeous.
I had a landscaper this past week call this right here lamb's lettuce, and I thought that was hilarious.
Oh, lamb's
You ever heard-
lettuce. I
lamb's
haven't
lettuce.
heard that before.
You haven't either?
I've never
Talking
heard
about
that
this
either.
plant right here.
I mean, it
These
kind of
soft
does look
little
like
leaves.
lettuce.
A little bit,
Yeah.
yeah. Lamb's lettuce.
I mean,
There you go.
lamb's ear makes a little bit more sense, but lamb's lettuce works too.
You know, lamb's ear doesn't do it for me. I don't know about y'all, but
I'm so disappointed in you.
I
right
don't
now.
like lamb's ear.
I
It's
love
too
it.
ratty. It
Yeah.
gets open in the middle. It grows to the edges nice.
You
know,
saw
and
pictures
feels-
of mine this year.
I know yours is good this year, but next year we'll see. I bet it grows out from that crown too much and just looks.
It spreads, but
barren.
it stays full in the center. My prickly pear has grown into it.
I'm going to stay neutral on the lamb's ear
money.
controversy.
Okay.
I'm
Thank
neutral.
you, Adam.
I think lamb's ear needs to be cut back like every 2 years, like just clear cut everything and just let it regrow from the stem, from that main crown.
Well, maybe I'll try that this year. But like I
think
said, mine stays up through the winter and it looks
It is soft.
pretty happy. All right, let's move on to our next question.
All right.
This is a very hot topic right now. Not talking about the store. I'm talking about, the topics.
It
that
still
we-
exists? Is there still a hot topic out
I'm going to say yes.
Yes.
there? Okay.
They
All
don't.
right.
They
Tyler
don't-
knows he shops there
No,
once a
no,
week.
I don't. No, they don't look as metal as they used to.
Okay.
Oh, that's sad. Well, now we know. Hot Topic's still a store, but
All right.
not what I'm talking about. With the drought we have had, why are many arborvitaes dying?
Oh,
Shallow
I
roots? We
will-
could talk about this for hours.
I'll answer that
Adam,
question.
nail it.
Okay, so just in general, arborvitaes have a very shallow fibrous root system. So even if they are well established, so for example, I have green giants in my house that have been there for 15 years, and they are approaching 30 foot tall. I bought them when they were 2 gallon and they were less than a foot tall. So that's how fast these things grow. Now, in 2012, David, you'll remember we had a drought, where the creek almost dried up again. And that year, even though they had been in for 4 years and were well established, I had to water them twice. I had to give them about a 2-month period there where I watered them once a month and really soaked them. That way they could get through that drought period because of that shallow root system. And it's not to say that their root system is in any way inferior to a root system that is has a tap root or is a deeper root system. It's just the way they grow. And so if we're in a drought situation, I don't care how old they are, they could perish. And the problem is you won't know until it's too late. And a lot of times what happens is you'll see a line of them and 3 or 4 in a row will be dead, and then 3 or 4 will still be alive, and then one on the end will be dead. It really just depends on, actually, I think it's something to do with the microclimate of the soil that's there to some degree. So some parts of your soil may hold moisture better than others, and in that case, it would be better for those if it did that. So, but it can really be hard to tell why certain ones die and certain ones don't. But that's what it is. It's a shallow root system, and even if they're well established, they'll die in a drought.
My reason, the single thing that I have seen that is the common thread generally between the loss of them is vacations. People go on vacation and we're going for 2 weeks to wherever, and that's wonderful. Except your plants don't go on autopilot while you're on vacation. You need to figure out some way. If you need to ideally have neighbors that you don't vacation the same time, that while you're away, they'll take care of your things, and then while you're away, they're away, you take care of theirs. And if you can do that, that's great. But if you don't do it, particularly when you have these rows of monoculture and the Leland cypress that were used in yesteryear were the one thing that was really worse. We're seeing it a lot more on emeralds now, simply because they're a superior plant in a lot of ways. Green giants are to the same end. Right. However, with the shallowness of the root systems that all of those plants have, they never get to a point where that you can just forget about them. We've also planted a hedge of them, and Adam, I think it was about 4 years ago we planted that row of green giants on the north property line.
Yes.
And they were, I believe, in a 7-gallon container when we planted those, about 3 feet tall.
Yeah.
They're all 10 feet plus now, and we planted a few larger ones that are probably approaching 15. So they are a great plant. You've got to make sure that you're leaving enough space, and emeralds are the better choice if you're in a position where you have less width to deal with.
Right, and there's new varieties now. There's one called North Pole, and actually, interestingly, there is a new green giant variant that is what was that one called? Green Column or something like that? Austin?
Yeah,
something like that. So it's a green giant, so it has kind of the same growth rate, but it's a lot more narrow than.
There is one that we get from Isley, but we don't ever get very many of them. That's a really wonderful one, and I can't call the name of it.
Could be Rushmore.
We seem to get like 10 or 15 of them, and they're gone immediately.
Yeah, could be Rushmore.
The fasticate forms are quite good, and they're desirable in many of the landscapes we have today, simply because a lot of people don't have room for a plant that can potentially get 15 or 20 feet wide. They take a lot of room.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think Adam, you nailed it when you said that they don't, arborvitae doesn't show you signs before it dies usually. Like big leafy plants will wilt, or they'll turn this off color, or they'll start to drop from the interior, whereas conifers don't do that near as much, as specifically arborvitae. So that first sign of that just off color, if you don't water at that point, I'm telling you, within 2 or 3 days, that thing is done brown.
It's too late.
It's too late. I had a customer just yesterday, a good plant person too. He told me real quick that he had his arborvitae for 12 years. It's a 12-year-old plant. Died this summer from drought. He didn't water it, didn't know to. You know, you don't think to water plants after they've been in for 12 years. You know, you just don't. And it happened. He was sad about it, but you know, that's part of it. It was just a weird year.
Yeah, June and July were brutal, and while we can't control the weather, we can control the environment that we put our plants into. And if you're going to have the best opportunity for success in your plants, you need to be thinking about using Earth Mix Garden products when you plant. It's one thing to go out and buy the best plants you can buy, but it makes no sense to do that if you're not going to invest in a soil product and amendments that are going to give you the very best opportunity for growth and to be able to survive maybe some minor neglect on your part. When you when you use Earth Mix Landscape in your plantings, what you're going to get is you're going to have increased porosity of the soil. The roots are going to be able to become better established more quickly, and they're going to gain the advantage of being able to tap into all of that organic material that is a part of that, both from the particulate side to the other things that are added to the product, such as mycorrhiza fungi and humic acid. So if you want to get the best growth on your plants and the best survivability, you need to be thinking about using Earth Mix Garden products. And the great thing about it is it's available at all the best independent garden centers and sellers around the Middle Tennessee, Kentucky, even up into Ohio and southern Indiana. Earth Mix Garden products are available, and to find out who has what, you simply go to the Find Earth Mix tab at earthmix.net, and when you click on that, a whole map will come up, and it'll have all these pins on the site, and it will show you the locations of all the various dealers all over the current eastern U.S., and there are more on the way. We have actually added a few more recently. So you simply can click on the pin of the company you're interested in, such as Redmond's Garden Center up in Kentucky, and if you want to know who's got what, you can also scroll to the bottom of the page and see if I can do that without. This is not really very good on TV here, but you can go to go to Smyrna, for instance, and go to Red Wagon, and you can see that they carry Garden, Viragra, Landscape, and Magic. So each of our of the vendors of landscape garden products all have a list of the products they carry and what they recommend for you. So remember this. Success in gardening begins at the ground level when you use Earth Mix Garden products, and we appreciate you giving us a moment to talk about that and to help you have greatly improved success in your gardening efforts. Don't scrimp on soil preparation. False economy.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Mm-hmm. I have personal testimony to that as well, because I just put in some raised garden beds last year, and I used Garden.
Right.
And had the best garden I've ever had. And this year I reinvigorated it with Supernatural compost and did the same thing. So
that's a really good plan to have, because the Earth Mix Garden mix does have some soil in there. But what you get after you use it the first year, you deplete a lot of the nutritional benefits that you get out of the initial purchase, and you can replenish that nutritional deficiency by adding Earth Mix Supernatural to it. So it's a good thing. And Supernatural also is a great top dress. As a matter of fact, we use it here to fertilize all the plants at Bates Nursery. So no matter what you're using it for, whether it's a top dress or just an actual compost, Supernatural is another one of the great products to consider. So thank you for giving us that moment, and we're going to pitch it back to Caroline and see what questions she's got lined up for us.
All right. I like this next question. I never think about breaking it down this far, and I don't think anyone else does. What do you exactly mean when you say wait until the plant is dormant? And then they said, thank you.
Good question.
That is a great question.
Yeah, so there's there's evergreen plants and there's deciduous plants. Deciduous plants drop their leaves. And here in Middle Tennessee, we pretty much live in the deciduous kind of capital of the United States. And we have most of our plants that are native here do drop their leaves over the wintertime. So dormancy literally means whenever they have shed all their leaves. Or in the case of, say, oaks, there are some random plants that do keep their leaves through the winter, but they are brown, and they obviously look like they're just, dead, if you will. Most people say dead over the wintertime. Dead's not the word. Dormant is the word. So they're just kind of chilling. They're just kind of resting until the winter months get done, and then they're going to re-leaf out in the spring. So dormancy is when they drop their leaves or whenever their leaves are crispy and brown. And like I said, mainly that's beech trees and oak trees will keep. A lot of different oak trees will keep those leaves on through the winter, but they're still dormant. Now, when it comes to conifers, evergreen plants, those are also dormant through our wintertime, but they don't show you that because they keep their foliage through the wintertime. So they will be out, but they will not be actively growing. So that's kind of the difference. The evergreens will be actively growing in the spring whenever weather warms and night temperatures warm up, and that's whenever they're growing. So during those off periods over the wintertime typically is whenever plants are dormant.
Mm-hmm. What about perennials? What do those do?
Perennials are different than shrubs and woody plants in general, to where they will, for the most part, there are some exceptions here, but for the most part, perennials are going to drop totally dormant. So that means their foliage is going to literally just slough off, or you just cut them off. They just turn brown, crispy, whatever, and you can literally clear cut those to the dirt, and you will see dirt over the winter time rather than a plant. And then those plants come back from their root systems every year. So they're perennial, but they come back from the roots. So you don't see anything over the winter time. They are truly dormant. And then once weather warms up in the spring, you'll start seeing them popping up through the ground.
Well, like you said, there's some exceptions, like what's the evergreen one?
Hellebore.
Hellebore is,
Yeah.
but aren't some of the heucheras also evergreen?
Yeah, they
Yes.
can be.
Yeah.
Mhm. If heuchera coral bells is what he's talking about, if those are, that's a very shady loving foliage plant. Those, if they're protected in a good enough site, they can stay up in evergreen almost through the whole wintertime. And
Yeah,
I know
my-
Caroline, yours does.
Mostly my dark-leaved ones I probably have like 10 varieties planted, and it's all dark-leaved. Like the darker they are, the more hardy they seem to be. I don't know if that's true, or maybe I just, happen to buy some that are more hardy than others.
And deciduous or perennials are probably the most difficult thing to extol the virtues of during the dormant season.
Yes.
Over the winter months, to sell somebody a pot of sticks
Yes.
or what looks like a pot of dirt and tell them, no, this is really going to be beautiful. It takes quite a leap of faith to be able to, and that's the benefit of dealing with people that and that you can have confidence in and know that the things are going to reliably do what you expect it to do. And dormancy is just a normal part of the growth phase. Even things that are evergreen or dormant, they typically, the sure sign on those is that there's no new foliage coming out, be it a coniferous evergreen with like a pine or a spruce or a yew, those kind of things, or if it's a broadleaf evergreen such as a holly or those kind of things, those are not going to drop their leaves per se, but they stop growing and producing new growth. So one of the cool things, pun intended, about conifers is the amount of color you get with those over the winter months. And I think that's one of the, at times it's the overlooked qualities that conifers give you, and while they're not growing, a lot of them do give you much more intense or completely different colors than they provide during the rest of the growing season.
Yes.
Yep. I actually prefer to plant specifically deciduous plants and perennials whenever they are in dormancy. That's the least stressful on the plant. I know, we run a lot of deals and stuff and have sales out here during the dead of the summer, and that's totally fine. That's a way for us to get people out here, and you can still plant dead of the summer. There's nothing wrong with that. Right. It's just that it can be fairly stressful on the plant or you, because you've really got to keep on it when it comes to watering them. Now, whenever a plant doesn't have leaves and it's not actively growing, it's not actively using a ton of water. So you still have to water it in after you get done planting it, but then after that, you don't have to do much over the wintertime. So all my planting of trees and shrubs typically are going to be done during dormancy.
Yeah.
So
Plus, like David said earlier, in the wintertime we get more consistent rainfall.
Yes.
So there's a lot of times where I'll plant something late fall, early winter, and I don't even have to water it.
No, not at
I
all.
don't even, because nature takes care of it.
That's right.
And by the time it gets to summer, it has established its root system already. So,
Yep.
But the difference is between putting things on autopilot is the fact that you are monitoring it.
oh, sure. It's not like I'm
because
just,
we don't
I
have
do
the-
check it, but
I don't believe in a green thumb. I think a green thumb is someone who has the sense of when to check on things to see what needs might be
Yes.
there. And,
Yes.
and it's a very common mistake. If you were going on vacation in June of this year, for instance, with it being 100 degrees and no rain, those are what we call clues
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
landscape industry. That means, watering should be at the very top of your priority, regardless of how long something's been in the ground. And it just makes it more difficult. And This is
Yes.
a very challenging year to be sure, because we essentially flip-flopped August and June this year.
Yes. Well, and one word to describe it would be just vigilance. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
you want to walk through your garden every day in your yard, and because you're also looking for pests too. Because if you catch for example, if you catch a infestation of, let's say, aphids on, say, your tomatoes or whatever, if you catch that early, you can use insecticidal soap and you're good to go. But if you catch it too late, insecticidal soap really won't work very well, because it doesn't have the punch that other chemical fertilizers have, so or pesticides have. So,
Yeah. I think the mark of a good gardener is one, like Adam just said, can walk out to the yard, look at a plant, and decide that it is okay, and they can walk away from it without watering, because that's another flip side. You know?
you can't overwater.
Yeah, I mean, overwatering is a really bad problem, and some people think they're doing the plant good by doing that and babying it and giving it water every day. And no, that's not always the case. If you walk out to your plant and you look at it and it looks good and it looks green and happy and healthy, then walk away from it. You don't need to
Well,
do anything to it.
And that's probably the single most frustrating thing from a landscape professional point of view. And the thing we deal with every day are people who don't have the understanding of how much, they say, well, I don't understand how it could have died. I water it every day. Well, applying water to it every day is not really watering it. You may have just wet the surface of the ground every day, and it still died of lack of water. And watering really is much better, less frequently, and much deeply applied at a slower rate. If you're putting it on the ground faster than the ground can absorb it, you're just wasting water.
Yeah,
So you've
doing
got to
nothing.
find a way to do that, be it through a drip system or through a low pressure emitter, or just patiently standing there with the hose and allowing it to soak in. It's a great meditative action to get to have, is just in that quiet of
Yes.
the evening or early morning to be able to stand there with a cup of coffee or
And you get
whatever
to see the
your
last,
beverage is.
Yeah, you get to see the sunrise, the last of the stars disappearing, and it's
Pretty
it's nice.
awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds romantic.
We have a question on the Bates Facebook page, and I think, Caroline, this pertains to your area.
Uh-oh.
Tanya's asking, do we have any monkey tails? And I believe that's a cactus. I looked it up.
There is a monkey tail cactus. I believe it's the type of Ripsalis. We don't have it right now. If that is what you're talking about, we don't. Sorry, I got
Got 'em
tickled.
ducking.
Got him ducking. We don't have that in stock right now. We have golden rat tail, but it does look pretty different from that. But it is another type of trailing, like cactus succulent. But no, we don't have that right now. So, question answered.
Okay.
All
Back
right,
to you.
Back to me. Here we go. When is the best time to prune back a rose of Sharon?
All right.
3:30.
3:30. That's correct.
All right, so Rose of Sharon blooms off new wood, guys. So we're going to do all our pruning over the wintertime on that. And Rose of Sharon can be pretty vigorous, so it will shoot, in the spring, a lot of different stems, and it'll just free flower from late summer all the way into fall. They're still blooming around town right now. Excellent old school plant, been around forever. Once they're in and established. Now, the Rose of Sharon's one you definitely, once it's in, you ain't got to worry about it at all. It's going to be fine every year, come back without a problem. But you can give it a severe cut if you have to, if it's gotten overgrown on you. But we're going to do that over the wintertime whenever you can see all those dormant sticks and no leaves are in your way for you to, get in your way to see them, and get all them crisscrossing stems out of there, make sure you got a nice upright form, and then we're going to shorten it a little bit as well. And that'll make a nice little bushy plant for next summer.
I also have something to add about Rose of Sharon.
Do it.
It was growing into a narrow pathway in a garden bed. I think the plant, it was just overgrowing that area. But I trimmed some branches up, and it was like new growth mainly that I trimmed up from the bottom. But it allows you to actually like shape the plant, which is pretty cool. And I did that during the growing season when I saw the new growth coming, because you'll see it and it grows really fast.
Yeah.
But it's also really soft wood, so it's pretty easy to prune. So I kind of just sculpted it the way that I wanted to, but of course when it gets over your head and you don't use a ladder, then it just kind of gets really top heavy. Not a bad thing. It looked really nice, actually, almost like a crepe myrtle.
Yeah.
But you also, with some varieties, need to watch the reseeding, because
that's what I was going to say.
Prolific.
I was going to say they can be invasive in that manner. I mean, as far as like in your yard, another thing that does that too. I've seen a butterfly bush do that. I've seen it, especially the old ones like Black Knight. I've seen it reseed all over the yard.
Yeah, I don't mind that one reseeding as much as Rose of Sharon for some reason, and they're just hard to yank out for me.
They are hard to yank. You're right. When they get in,
and you just see them coming up, and you're like, you again, again. So just be careful if you're planting that in somewhere where you care about what's growing around it.
If you don't know the answers to the gardening questions you have, I'm going to make a recommendation to you. Come see us out at Bates Nursery and Garden Center. And if you are a regular, we certainly appreciate that, and we thank you very much. You might even be a subscriber to my weekly newsletter, In the Garden with Bates Nursery. And there I talk about seasonal cultural things. I've talked about this is the last week coming up on voting of Best of Nashville. We've been very fortunate to be voted Best of Nashville 17 times. So we're that doesn't happen without the votes of the people who are out there supporting us. We again thank you for that. I've also got this little blog, that In the Garden with Bates Nursery newsletter. If you'd like to vote for that,
award-winning.
Appreciate it. Well,
it's award-winning.
I finished second place twice. So I'm for number 2, I try a little harder. So I've been trying to write a little harder. I don't know if that is having any effect or not, but what does have an effect is getting the right plants in the right place the first time. And that's the way we do it at Bates Nursery and Garden Center, where you're dealing with landscape professionals like we have here in the studio and out on the lot. We're going to help you to get those right choices made. Bring photographs on your smartphone or tablet along with you. It really gives us a lot of insight to be able to figure out what your situation is and how to best approach getting that. Also, if you are a subscriber to my newsletter, you know that there is a 2 days only sale going on right now. And this just in, today is day 2 of that sale, which means if you don't come out today, you're going to miss it. It's 15% off everything.
Yeah, and as Austin said, we just got in 15 to 20 trucks of new material. So
yes, this is not things that you might perceive to be old and worn out. It's our well cared for stock that we already have, plus 15 semi loads of other additional stock. So come out, stock up today, because we will be closed on, this is our last Sunday to be closed through the fall season. And also we will be closed on Labor Day. So come out today and save big. Hey, if it's raining a little bit, just put your rain jacket on or grab the umbrella and come on out. You'll see we've had a lot of construction going on this summer. We don't have the covers over those areas yet, but it does kind of give you a tease for what is coming up in the future. We'll have probably almost half of our area covered by weather-resistant structures, so it'll hopefully add to your shopping experience here at Bates Nursery and Garden Center, where we are conveniently located 1 mile north of Briley Parkway at exit 19 on Whites Creek Pike. That's just minutes from Rivergate, Opry Mills, Nashville West, downtown Nashville. And I promise you this, no matter where you're coming from, it is worth the drive. Come on out and see us. We're open from 9 until 4 today. And like I said earlier, we will be closed on Labor Day. So if you can't make it out today, come out and see us starting next week. And beginning September 11th on Sunday, we will be open Sunday afternoons. Bates Nursery and Garden Center, where we are celebrating our Emerald anniversary, our 90th year of business, beautifying Nashville since 1932. Come see us. That's all I got.
Yeah, just to note, houseplants and Japanese maples are included in this sale, which they haven't been.
The only exclusions are gift cards and deliveries.
That's right.
Other than that, bag materials, Japanese maples, all the things that have been all included, 15% off. But you got to be a Base Rewards member, so it takes all of about 30 seconds to sign up. So you can come out, sign up, and get savings today. Come out and see us.
Right.
Yes.
So there's that.
I put Austin in audio jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Austin was muted.
My phone did something funny. Sorry. Tyler, do you have the picture I sent you?
Yes, I do.
Can we throw that up there? I got to give a shout out.
Wait, is this because what's in bloom with Austin is about to happen?
That's about to happen.
Okay.
Let's talk about it. So I'll talk
Okay.
about some things that are in bloom. We had mentioned earlier some of the wild perennials that are in bloom around town. The ones you're probably seeing down the interstates and in little just areas of weeds, whatever. The ironweed and the goldenrod and the Joe Pye weed, all of that you're seeing around town right now. We are certainly seeing echinacea, your coneflower, your rudbeckia, like I've got right here. Those are certainly still blooming. They're getting to that point where they're getting kind of where they need to be deadheaded. They've been blooming a while, so we need to get out and clean those up. Tons of grasses are in bloom right now. Your hosta and heuchera, both of those shade-loving plants that you really just think about the foliage on those, but whenever they bloom, it's an added little bonus. So those are in bloom at the moment. And I've got a plant at the house called Sun King Aurelia. This was the perennial plant of the year, I believe last year or maybe the year before. What an excellent little shade-loving perennial. I tell you guys, they're called Sun King because they got this golden foliage. They come back from the roots every year like most perennials do, but they get to be a shrub. I'm not even joking. They're like 4 feet tall, and I had to prune them the other day. They were encroaching into other things, but they're showing some blooms right now. So Aurelia blooms are kind of funny. They're a little bit interesting. They're almost alien-ish, but they are in bloom right now. So an excellent plant to check out for a shady spot to kind of brighten it up. So Sun King Aurelia, certainly worth growing. And then, obviously, we've still got crepe myrtle. We've still got Rose of Sharon. And then grasses are all going nuts around town right now. And then I wanted to talk about a random one that one of our favorites, Ann in the office, is a big fan of, and this is Bush Lespedeza. What y'all think about that? This plant does not stay up over the wintertime very well. Its sticks will totally die back, and it returns from the ground every year as well. But if you notice a large growing round shrub that's blooming purple right now, when most things are not in bloom, that is Bush Lespedeza, and it's a cool little plant. It's not used very much. We only keep a handful on site here, but it's a plant that you just don't notice until it's blooming, and then it's blooming and you're like, whoa, it blooms up every single stem, like the whole way down it. So it makes this cool effect. Good little cut flower to bring inside for arrangements. So certainly working, or a good one to use in the landscape that you don't think of. And then Tyler, do we have the picture? Shout out Mama.
Oh.
I hope she's watching. Mama, if you're watching, love you. Hope you're doing well. This is your hydrangea tree, as you know. And, I talked about this multiple weeks ago. What I did with this plant this year, this was a tree form, and it's about 6 or 7 years old now. I prune it for her every winter, and I prune it pretty severely to get a nice, structure back in the spring. But this year, and what I noticed last year is that I prune it in a way to where, all the stems look really good, but they get massive blooms on them. And even as much as I can help it, those blooms get so big, but after a rainstorm, they tend to flop a little bit. And it really wasn't all that bad of a flop, but it's enough to just annoy me. So this year what I did was let it grow, its green growth, and get the stems that were out pretty far. And then I went in and took every single stem back in the late spring, actually. And I told y'all that what was going to happen is that it's going to bloom later, so it's in full show right now, whereas most around town have already been in full show for the past couple weeks. This one just happened. Mama just took this picture and sent it to me yesterday. And so it bloomed later. It's not even actually totally in full bloom, but the blooms are also smaller, but you get more of those blooms, so it creates this massive show across the whole thing. And you can see that plant is not even thinking about flopping. It is upright, it's got blooms on every stem, and it's gorgeous, and it's going to last a lot longer than some of the other hydrangeas around town. So I think it's a good method to go ahead and give that a spring prune as well if you deal with flopping every year, because those are not going to flop. It's going to be good. So thanks, Mama, for the picture. Hope you're watching.
Yeah,
That's gorgeous.
Her variegated abelias look beautiful.
Yeah, those
right
look like
there on the other
kaleidoscope
side.
to me.
They
That's what it
were,
looks like.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, those are abelia we put up underneath there. We had to prune them back this last year. You know what's funny about abelia? Abelia's in bloom right now. I kind of forgot to talk about that one, but it's a good one. I know Adam loves abelia.
Yep.
It's a very, very hardy plant. Consistent bloomer every year. Just blooms till frost. I mean, really good plant. What I notice about Mom's kaleidoscopes is that they go more wide quicker than they do tall. So it's a good little space filler, around the base
Right.
of a plant like we have. We sell them. We got a lot of them right now.
Yep.
It's a really,
And
really
as
good
we
plant.
like to remind folks, when we're talking about abelia, buy now, abelia later.
Oh, good one.
Somehow
Oh, yeah.
I sensed that one coming.
Yeah.
I knew that was
That's
what's
an
happening.
old one, an oldie, but
a goodie.
maybe still has some value. Who knows?
There you go.
All right.
So there you go.
know,
That's
one
what's
thing
blooming.
about abelia that's worth noticing worth noting is that it's one of those tweener plants. It's kind of a semi-broadleaf. It will, if it's a mild winter, it'll retain a fair amount of that tip foliage until the winter just gets extremely brutal. Then it'll completely defoliate. But
Well, what I've noticed
it
with
is-
mine, I've got a Little Richard is what I've got at my house, and
Hey,
That's a good one.
yes, yeah, it doesn't sing to me. I was disappointed about that, but they actually, and mine are my front of my house faces south, so they get even some nice radiant heat in the winter. So I don't think mine have ever gone without leaves. But now they turn burgundy with the coldest weather. So
Yeah.
and I think that's pretty much true of all abelia cultivars, is that they get that burgundy cast to them.
Yeah.
Some more so than others, but it really becomes a very dark, contrasting foliage to whatever you might happen to have behind it, and it generally is, there's something behind them because they do tend to stay lower.
except for
And now
Abelia
that-
grandiflora, the the
Right.
straight
They get
species, that's a monster. It can get 10 foot.
It really
10
can.
foot.
My father-in-law has that on his house, and it has for the past 20 years along a brick wall. And he cuts it clear to the dirt about every 3 seasons because it gets huge. I mean, at MTSU where I went to college, I identified it first in this long hedgerow, and it was, Adam, it was 8 foot tall, and it was pruned every year to kind of maintain that hedge. But it's a good one for a flowering, a blooming hedge.
Yeah.
That's a really good plant. Old school, been around forever, but it lives, y'all, without a problem. So.
And almost nothing bothers it.
No,
There's
hardly any
almost
pest
no
issues.
at all.
It's a good plant. We still sell it too. Most of the cultivars now, they're trying to come out with tighter, smaller, compact growing plants. But regular old Abelia grandiflora, the old school one, that gets big. Let it be.
Yeah, and a lot of that is due to the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, people have ever shrinking green spaces to work with. They don't have these acre lots as they did back in the day. So as the lots get smaller, our industry continues to work at cultivars to plants that have a more compact growth habit, something that's more confined, that will give you the opportunity to have some things that you can use. It gives a similar look to perhaps what is available in roomier situations. So there's that.
There it is.
We got some activity on the At Home Show Facebook page.
Oh,
Sharon, I kind of missed her question earlier when we were talking about it. So what can I do with a 30-ish foot rose of Sharon? It's definitely out of hand.
30-foot rose of Sharon.
Mine was probably like 10 tops,
yeah.
Call a tree
and I cut it down.
care guy with a
Chainsaw.
cherry picker.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't think I've ever seen a 30-foot rose of Sharon. Have y'all?
No, not that I can recall.
I've never seen a 30-footer. Either way, that's it. Big is big. So, like I said, let it go dormant, drop its leaves over the winter, and then either get a professional in to help you prune it, or you get at it yourself and prune it. I mean, you can literally take it down. If anything that's that big, you can take it down pretty much as low as you want. It's coming right back. So,
I'm not kidding. Chainsaws the way
yeah,
to go.
yes,
with that one.
seriously,
I mean,
maybe
that's-
just one clear cut. Honestly, that's a big one.
Yep, and then Miriam Mims.
Hey, Miriam.
Yeah,
Hey, Miriam.
I've heard tree planting is a 3-year process of sleep, creep, and leap. The 3rd year is when a new tree really shows growth. Is that true?
That's true.
That
Well,
is
that's what
so
I tell
true.
people.
It is
Yeah.
very true. Now, there's some plants that grow a little quicker than others, certainly, but no, that is a great rule of thumb. People ask me all the time, and I know, Adam, you surely get it too, like, how quick is this going to grow? Or how long until this is 10 feet tall or whatever? And I'm just like, look,
Yep.
the first couple seasons, y'all, you got to wait. We got to be patient. They're not pushing a ton. They're getting settled in. Them roots have to figure out what they're going to do before that top starts to move. So perfect, Miriam. That's exactly what we say.
Well, not only that, Austin, but it's also, for me, the way I explain it is it's a phenomenon of exponentials. So when the second year you have something in the ground, it does grow. Like the first year, usually it is just the roots.
Yeah.
Or you're planting it so far in the season, it's already done its first flush.
Yeah.
So the second year, it does grow, but because it looks closer to when you bought it, the same size, it doesn't look like it's done anything. So the 3rd and 4th year, when it's put on that a new growth those years, that's when it exponentially starts to look bigger.
Definitely. That's when you really notice it.
And you have the availability of energy that is there for the tree or plant, whatever it might be. Once it becomes better established, it's able to draw that nutrition from a much larger area.
Correct.
And consequently, that exponential growth that you're talking about can occur because it's well established and it's pulling in from the soil all around, well outside of the prepared soil, that if you did it right at the beginning, and of course you did, because you're listening to the At Home Show, you will get that growth. And particularly on shade trees, you get into year 3, and the caliper is what I really begin to notice. The head of the tree, of course, is going to get big, but when you see that, it's like one day you walk by, you go, my gosh, it looks like it got twice as big. It's really not an illusion, particularly at this time of year is when a lot of trees in the ground start to put on caliper. They're not so much, it's not going to be growing a lot on the head, but the caliper of the trunk really starts to increase, and it starts getting that girth that makes you feel like you've really gotten ahead of the game and gotten that shade tree where you want it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right, got one on the Bates Nursery Facebook page. Samara's asking, do you have any ideas to plant here? It is along the front of the driveway, holds up the backyard, full hot sun all day, compost mixed in. My limelight hydrangeas are cooking and not doing good at all this year.
Well, there could be a number of options for that. I'd like to see the space and see how big you want it to get, and if you want it to be evergreen or flowering or whatever. Now, I will say limelight hydrangea can take the sun all day, so I don't know if yours is not doing well because of probably a water scenario. Hydrangeas certainly like a good amount of moisture, especially through the summertime. So if they're cooking, it's probably a water issue because they certainly can handle sun all day long. But like I said, there are a number of options we can throw out there for you. We just need to kind of know some more details on what kind of specs you really want in that plant, how big it can get and all that.
It's pretty sunny on our pavement, by the way.
Yeah, we have lawn lights in the full sun.
We're able to do well with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, just a couple of examples would be something like a dwarf or semi-dwarf crepe myrtle would be similar to a limelight and would actually be able to really, they can take the heat better than a limelight. I mean, limelights can take a lot of heat, but not as much as a crepe myrtle can.
They can't take it as much without the water. You're
Correct.
Right. Yeah,
she says it's against a brick wall about 25 feet long.
Well, that's
okay.
Yeah.
Well, then that would
Like
the
the
dwarf
heat.
crepe myrtle would be awesome because they can handle any kind of sun and heat.
so something like a cherry dazzler, or that would be a good one, or Pocomoke for that's an older variety, but it still does well. So
Or it may simply be that you need to be patient and give it another year. Once they get up enough size, they'll begin to shade themselves and cut that reflected heat down significantly and really alleviate the problem on its own.
Yeah.
Hey, we're about to run out of time here.
We are.
Caroline, you got something else for us?
Yes, I do.
Let's hear it.
Daphne, it's not growing.
Oh, wow. Daphne.
It's a Daphne.
It's
like
a Daphne.
the wording of that question.
Unfortunately, yeah, Daphne, we don't really stock Daphne here, y'all, but mainly because it does not really want to live here very well, or it's not a very hardy shrub here. They like it warmer. So down in South Carolina and Alabama, Georgia, I think they do a lot better. It's an evergreen blooming shrub. They call it winter Daphne for a reason. It blooms like wintertime, early spring. And it's a good plant for down there. Now, up here, it just does not seem to perform well at all. We will special order it for people if they really want to try to grow it, because it is very fragrant and it's a cool little plant. But as a general livability goes here in Middle Tennessee, it's just not a tried and true plant, unfortunately.
All right.
And
Well,
there
we
you
had
are.
2 more, but we will answer them in our stories.
Well,
That's right.
do we have enough time to get them?
I think
I just
think
heard the
we've got
music.
time.
I
Okay.
thought maybe it
I'll
was
pull
time to
the
go.
music back.
Pull the music back and let's go fast. My red twig dogwood has brown spots on the leaves. What would you recommend?
It's a red twig dogwood.
It is,
exactly.
unfortunately. Yeah. If you really want to try to combat that, you have to get on a fungicide regimen early in the spring, but you got to get it before those brown spots start, because you're not changing anything once they're on there. So red twig dogwood has a lot of issues, and that's one of them. Go ahead.
The biggest issue is that they are hardy to zone 3 or 2 or 3, so it's really on the upper edge of too hot for them here.
Yes.
Really.
Yeah. And soon it'll be devoid of foliage and they'll be showing their stuff.
Yes.
And that's when red twig dogwood looks the best, when it
Yes,
has no
does.
leaves.
All right. Our
Last
final question.
question.
Can I grow a fig tree in a large pot?
It better be a large pot, because
Yes.
figs have massive root systems, especially fruiting figs. Yeah, they have a extensive root system. So if you are going to do it, make sure they're in a very large pot. But yes,
Yeah,
it can
the-
be done. Every 2 or
big
3 years,
issue-
probably need to bring it out and root prune a little bit and put them back in there. So
Yeah, the big issue would be freeze out because it's in a container above the
True.
ground. You lose effectively 2 hardiness zones. So if it's already a zone 7 plant, it's as though you have moved it to a zone 5 environment. So its susceptibility to freeze damage will be much greater. Anytime you're going to have cold weather, if you have it in a container, soak it thoroughly. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but it fills the pore spaces in the soil with insulating water and will give it a lot of protection.
or just bring that pot right into your garage for the wintertime and let
Do
it just
that,
chill in
yeah.
there. Yep. All right,
All right. And then Josh Cary,
Josh.
our legendary co-host, has a question. I purchased 2 beet plants. Will I get 2 beets?
If you're lucky. Yeah, they don't produce more than one, Josh. You need to do those from seed, buddy. You can buy the plants all you want. You certainly can if you have a small space, but doing beets from seed is much, you're going to get a lot more, okay?
Well,
So-
isn't that what you're going to call your music production company, Tyler? 2 Beats?
That sounds
beets.
great, Adam. Thank you for the suggestion. All right.
2 beets.
And on that note,
We are beat. We have to go beat the day's
we have
drum.
about wound it up for today.
That's right.
Yes.
Tyler, thank you. Adam, thank you for being here today.
Yes, sir. My
It's
pleasure.
a pleasure to have you on
Yes,
board
sir.
today. Of course, Adam is here every day. He is the general manager, so his duties are wide and varied. So whenever you can get
Yes.
Adam, you know you're getting as good as they come. Austin, Caroline, thank you guys. And
Thank you.
Why don't you come out and see us? We've got 15% off everything, but that only goes through today.
7
so
hours.
Come out and see us. There we go. Come see us. Thank you for joining in today, and we'll look forward to seeing you right here next week on the At Home Show.